You may know her from Netflix's Wednesday, a shadowed figure, clad in the garb of another age. She appears in visions, guiding Wednesday through trials of blood and fire. But beyond those fleeting moments, how much do we truly know of her? She is called Goody Addams, a name carried by whispers, half forgotten in the cracks of history. She is both ancestor and ghost, a woman whose spirit lingers long after her mortal breath has faded. Today, we open the old chronicle. We turn to the pages stained with ash and ink where her story begins. A tale of persecution, of visions, of an oath that bound her bloodline for centuries, and perhaps of secrets still unspoken. Who was Goody Addams before she became a specter? What did she endure? And why, of all her descendants, does she reach only for Wednesday? To understand Goody Addams, we must return to the world that forged her. The 17th century, an age of fear, of fire, of whispered accusations. In the colonies of New England, suspicion was a constant shadow. Those who healed with herbs, those who spoke too boldly, those who lived too freely, all could be named witch, and all could be condemned. Goody was among them, a woman who stood apart, one who walked with secrets others could not see. To her neighbors she was strange, unsettling, perhaps even dangerous. But to her own kin, she was protector and guide. In her hands lay both wisdom and defiance, the traits that would mark the Addams line for generations. We do not know the full shape of her youth, nor the first moment her visions awoke. What we do know is that she lived in a time when the unseen was feared and the powerful were punished. To be different was to invite the noose, the stake, or the flames. And so Goody Addams carried her gift in silence until the world turned against her and against all she loved. To speak of Goody Addams is to speak of loss. Her life was not a gentle one, but a tale shaped by the cruelty of men and the weight of suspicion. In her time, the colonies were ruled not by compassion, but by fear. Fear of difference, fear of the unknown. And there was no man who embodied that fear more than Joseph Crackstone. Crackstone was a zealot. To him, Goody was not a healer, nor a woman gifted with sight. She was an abomination, a living affront to his vision of purity. He saw her family, her bloodline, as a threat to be cut out at the root, and so he set fire to her kin, hunted them as if they were beasts, and sought to erase every trace of their name. Goody endured the flames, but not without cost. She watched as her family was consumed by hatred's fire, as the innocent were condemned alongside the guilty. And from that suffering, a vow was born. She swore that Crackstone's legacy would not endure, that the injustice dealt to her blood would be answered in kind. Some say this oath was no mere promise of revenge. Some believe it was sealed in the oldest way, through blood, through pain, and through the shadowed forces that listened in the dark. What began as a curse upon one man became something far greater, a binding thread woven into the fate of her descendants. Thus, Goody Addams became not just a victim of persecution, but the architect of a legacy. Her spirit would linger beyond death, her vision passed down, her defiance carried in the hearts of those who bore her name. And though centuries have passed, the oath has never faded. It lives on, hidden in the marrow of the Addams line, waiting for the day it would be called upon again. Among the many mysteries that surround Goody Addams, none is more enduring than the gift she carried within her mind. It was not a gift in the way one might imagine, wrapped in light or joy, but something heavier, darker, and infinitely more difficult to bear. Goody could see beyond the veil of the present. Her visions reached into shadows where others dared not look. They came to her unbidden, flashes of death, fragments of future, glimpses of paths that had not yet been walked. To her enemies, this was proof of wickedness. To her kin, it was a sign of protection. She foresaw danger where others saw safety, betrayal where others trusted, and in those warnings, she saved lives, though rarely her own peace of mind. But visions are a double-edged sword. To glimpse what is yet to come is also to live in constant dread of it. For every moment of insight, there was a night of torment. For every life she saved, another was lost before her eyes. In time, Goody learned to shape her gift into purpose, using it to strengthen her oath and guide her descendants, even beyond the limits of her mortal years. And so her sight did not end with her death. It was passed down, silent, invisible, through the generations of Adam's blood. Not every child carried it. Not every heir was marked. But when the need was greatest, when the family stood at the edge of peril, the visions awoke once more. In Wednesday, Addams, the legacy reached its sharpest point. What Goody had endured in the shadows of the 17th century found new life in the 21st. Through visions of fire and betrayal, Goody's spirit reached across the centuries to guide her descendant. She became not just memory, but presence, a living echo of all that had been suffered and all that was yet to be endured. For Wednesday, it was not only a gift. It was a burden, a constant reminder that the line of Addamses is bound by more than blood. It is bound by sight, by shadow, and by the will of a woman who refused to let her story die. Though Goody Addams perished centuries ago, her story did not end with the grave. Some spirits fade quietly, becoming no more than faint memories in the whispers of time. Goody did not. Her vow, her visions, her rage at injustice, these tethered her spirit to the living world. When Wednesday first saw her, it was not in the form of a distant echo, but as a presence clear and undeniable. A pale figure, cloaked in the dress of her century, her eyes sharp, her voice edged with the authority of survival. She came not to comfort, but to guide, sometimes sternly, sometimes with a touch of disdain. Goody was no gentle ancestor. She was iron forged by fire, and her words carried the weight of that legacy. To Wednesday, she was a strange inheritance, at once a guardian and a warning. Goody offered counsel when the path grew dark, but she was also a glimpse of what Wednesday herself might become. A woman hardened by suffering, consumed by vengeance and left to wander beyond death. In Goody's presence, Wednesday saw both strength and the shadow of despair. What makes this bond more mysterious is its exclusivity. No other member of the Addams family speaks of seeing Goody. She does not appear to Gomez, nor Morticia, nor even Pugsley. It is Wednesday alone who carries this connection, as if she were chosen, or perhaps cursed, to bear the full weight of her ancestor's unfinished story. This singular bond raises unsettling questions. Is Goody's presence a blessing, a guide for the one Addams who mirrors her the most? Or is it a chain, binding Wednesday to a fate she cannot escape? Is Goody a protector, or is she a reminder that all visions lead eventually to sacrifice? Whatever the truth, One thing is clear. Goody Addams endures. Her voice has crossed centuries. Her shadow lingers at the edge of every vision. She remains close, watchful, and unyielding, as if death itself could not silence her defiance. For all that we have gathered of Goody Addams, much remains hidden in shadow. The chronicles of her life are fragmented, and what survives is as much legend as it is truth. Her story leaves us with questions that even centuries of whispers cannot fully answer. Why does she reach out only to Wednesday? If her blood runs through every Addams vein, why is this connection so singular? Some suggest that the bond is not merely of lineage, but of likeness. That Wednesday, with her sharp wit, her defiance, and her willingness to walk alone, reflects Goody more closely than any who came before. Others claim that the visions seek balance. Goody returns only when the family faces a threat as dire as the one that destroyed her own world. Another mystery lies in her resting place. Some say Goody's body was buried in secret, hidden from Crackstone's zealots, so that her spirit could not be defiled. Others whisper that no grave holds her at all, that her final rites were never performed, leaving her spirit untethered, bound to wander until justice was fully claimed. And then there are the darker theories. Could Goody be more than a guide? Could she, in some way, be using Wednesday to complete the work she herself left unfinished? Is her presence protective or possessive? When we see her urging Wednesday onward, is it for the child's sake or for her own? The Addams family has never shied from mystery. They live with it, embrace it, and even celebrate it. Yet Goody Addams stands apart from the rest of their lore. She is not a monster, not a trick of Gothic humor. She is something else entirely, a figure of sorrow, of vengeance, and of visions that never fade. And perhaps that is what makes her so unsettling. She is a reminder that even within the Addams family, whose lives dance between the macabre and the absurd, there are stories that carry real pain, real sacrifice, and secrets that refuse to die. Goody Addams is more than a fragment of history. She is more than a ghostly vision or a relic of persecution. She is the root from which a peculiar family tree has grown, carrying her defiance in its marrow. Though centuries separate her from the modern Addamses, her spirit lingers as proof that their darkness is not mere affectation, but inheritance. In Wednesday, we see that legacy alive again. The sharp mind, the unyielding will, the refusal to bow before injustice. All these echo the strength of the woman who once stood alone against Crackstone's wrath. And yet, where Goody was hardened by fire and grief, Wednesday carries the chance of something more. She may be the first to bear the gift and still carve her own path, unbound by the tragedies of the past. Goody's presence is both shadow and light. She is a warning of what becomes of obsession and a reminder that even in suffering there is power. Her oath did not end with her death, and her voice continues to whisper across time. Whether as guardian, as echo, or as restless spirit, she remains part of the Addams legacy, as enduring as the family's laughter in the face of the macabre. And so her story closes, for now, as all chronicles must. But remember, when the veil between worlds grows thin, and when an Addams child dreams of voices in the dark, it may be Goody who stands beside them, watching, guiding, ensuring that her vow is never forgotten. Her body may be lost to the earth, but her presence endures in the bloodline, in the vision, and in the legacy of a family that thrives where others fear to tread. If you found this tale compelling and wish to uncover more hidden chronicles of the strange and the shadowed, consider subscribing or leaving a like. It helps us continue turning the pages of forgotten lore.